Hello and welcome to another Oscar prediction video. We are nearing the end of this particular series. We only have a couple more to do after this. And we're getting to the categories that are really tricky to figure out. And today we're going to be looking at the category of Best Visual Effects. Now this is really interesting. Some years we have a Best Picture contender in this category, and that gives us some indication of where the tide is turning. Not this year. Um, this year actually is really interesting for this category because the big thing about 2020 is, well, among with many other big things about 2020, is that a lot of the big spectacle movies that have a lot of visual effects were pushed back. And so we didn't really get like a Dune or a Black Widow or Eternals or the movies that would usually be competing in this category. And so and we have a really interesting lineup, and we knew it would be an interesting lineup from the initial list, the short list of 10 films. There was a lot of interesting contenders to make it on, and these are the 5 that did. And I'm going to take a look at them and see which one has the best chance of winning. Fifth most likely to win is Mulan. So this is one of the few like spectacle movies that did not get pushed, and the effects in this movie, people are mixed on it. People are mixed on the movie in general and the quality of the film and the message of where it was shot and all that. But the visual effects are certainly well done in this film. There's nothing really wrong about them, but there's nothing really revolutionary. There's nothing that really stands out as like, whoa, that's great visual effects. And so the nomination came as something of a surprise, and I find it difficult to believe that this will win. One second, sorry, I'm yawning. Because the visual effects of this movie are boring. Haha, no. There's definitely a lot of hard work that went into this, but the only Disney live-action film that's not Marvel to have won this award ever is Jungle Book. And that was genuinely revolutionary visual effects. It did a lot of great things with the talking animals. And that, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about another movie like that in a little bit. But Mulan, again, the visual effects in this look nice, but it's nothing that screams this needs to win. And it hasn't won any of the major precursors, and nobody really likes this movie all that much. So for all those reasons, I don't believe that this will win. Fourth most likely to win is Love and Monsters. So this is an interesting example because the movie shocked a lot of people when it got onto the short list, even before the nominations, because it's like an apocalyptic comedy that came and went without a lot of fanfare, and yet it does have legitimately impressive visual effects from what I've seen. The effects are cartoony and not really meant to look realistic, but they are very creative, and I could see some people voting for it just for that reason. However, I don't know how many people have actually seen this movie or believe that the movie is something that should win Oscars. It would feel like such an odd winner because the film is primarily comedic, from what I understand. And so, while it is a lot of very creative visual effects, there's nothing really revolutionary, and they usually do like to give it to something revolutionary. I don't know how much of the effects overall this year were revolutionary, but certainly not this one. So nice job getting the nomination, but frankly I don't see a win happening because I think the movie itself is too low-key for that to happen. Third most likely to win is The One and Only Ivan. So this movie, even though the film came and went without a ton of fanfare, I do think, from what I've seen, the visual effects in this film are actually really convincing. Like, the work that's done on the talking animals looks damn near photorealistic, and Disney obviously was won for The Jungle Book and was nominated for The Lion King. So they've mastered the art of photorealistic talking animals, and the ones in this movie do look very convincing, even if no one really cares about the movie that much. I do think there's a world in which there's vote splitting between the top two contenders, and this comes from behind and wins, just because the effects are legitimately very impressive. But I think the fact that the movie was earlier in the year and came and went without much fanfare and hasn't it's won a couple of stuff, couple of visual effects awards, which is why I'm not cutting it out of the race entirely. I think it does still have a chance. But again, it's not the most revolutionary. I think what they like to award in this category is revolutionary stuff, and this looks great. It would not be a bad winner, but not that many people really care about the movie, and I just really feel it would not be a particularly notable winner, although I do think it is a possible winner. Second most likely to win is The Midnight Sky. Okay, so I wrestled with this for a little while because I do think there's a very legitimate chance that The Midnight Sky could win. It did win at Visual Effects Society, which is a pretty major precursor. The film, it's only nominated for this, and did it get anything else? I think it might have only gotten this, actually. I think it was in contention to get other stuff like score and sound and production design, but it only got this, if I'm not mistaken. And here's the thing, it's not the worst movie out there. It's a pretty bland and forgettable movie, but the visual effects are legitimately kind of impressive. I say kind of. The spacewalk sequences do look real. The zero gravity sequences do look real. And there's one sequence in particular where one of the astronauts dies and the droplets of blood float away from them in zero gravity. That was a really cool effect, and it looked really amazing in the film. And if this movie wins visual effects, I think it will likely be because of that scene alone. I do think it's very possible. However, I'm not ultimately going to predict it. I think it's right there. I think it can win, but I'm not going to predict it. And the reason I'm not going to predict it is number one most likely to win, and that is Tenet. So I debated this because I think Tenet, there's a lot of negatives there, but a lot of downsides there. The movie is not the most widely seen. I think Midnight Sky might actually be a little bit more widely seen because there were famously issues with screeners, with people not getting screeners, and with Warner Brothers turning against Christopher Nolan because he insisted on showing it in theaters, and they turn against him by not releasing screeners and not campaigning for it at all. That being said, the movie did win. It won Critics' Choice and it won BAFTA, which shows that people are either they're seeing it or they're not seeing it, but they're checking it off anyway because it's Christopher Nolan. And I have not seen this movie, as I said earlier in my production design video. I have not seen it. However, from what I've seen from the trailers and featurettes, it doesn't look like there's a ton of visual effects in the movie. It looks like a lot of it is mostly practical. And I'm not really seeing where the visual effects come in. I guess they're more subtle in this film. But the Academy has shown that they do like to nominate subtle work. They like to give the win to subtle work. I mean, we're seeing recently with wins like Ex Machina, First Man, and 1917 last year, it's not the most obvious big effects movies. And this year, I'd say Midnight Sky is the more obvious effects. You look at the movie and you can tell, okay, that's CGI, but it looks really good. And this movie, so much of it is practical, and it's meant to look really real, and it might be more subtle than most. And I don't know how many people have even seen it, but how many people are going to vote for it just because it's Christopher Nolan and there is no obvious content? There's nothing obvious to counterbalance it. If Welcome to Chechnya was in this category, maybe that would be different because that's famously a documentary that uses visual effects in order to save people's lives, which is very impressive. I do think that this is a tough category, but because of the Academy's recent trend of rewarding subtle visual effects, which, from what I understand, is what Tenet has, and plus the fact that Tenet has a production design nomination, and there is an alarming statistic that movies that win visual effects are usually nominated in production design, not always, but usually. So I'm gonna stick with my guns and I'm gonna say Tenet, though I think there's a very likely chance that Midnight Sky could win, and I wouldn't be shocked if One and Only Ivan came from behind and ended up taking it. Okay, so that is my official prediction. Thank you very much for watching, and tune in next time where I will be taking a look at the category. Oh, dang it, what's next? Adapted screenplay. I will be doing adapted screenplay next. See you then.